watching the FIFO.fish channel, and this is vid number 6, and I just wanted to give a bit of an update, and I've got a few questions from some of the viewers as well, so I'll go through some answers for you on those. We've moved house yet again, so still the same tank setup, and I haven't changed much from last time, but you'll notice that now that I'm living with my partner, we have our terrarium next to the fish tank, so we've got 2 green tree frogs in there, living happily. It was interesting when we first moved in, the frogs took a great deal of interest in the fish, and they spent the first few weeks up against the glass watching the fish intently. They seem to have gotten used to them now, but it's a nice little ecosystem we've got going on here. So anyway, as I say, vid number 6, and video number 1 was just an introduction and a description of the equipment that I bought. Then video 2, I had it set up and the water in, and I'd made some modifications to the stand at that stage. And then video 3 went into some further details about how I'd modified the tank to fit the filter in. So one of the questions that one of the viewers, Enza, asked me about was how I managed to fit this large filter in this cabinet. So what I did is, because this filter is probably overrated for a tank of this size, that was the position of the shelf originally, so I lifted it up probably about 120 mils, and because this section of the frame is concave, I had to trim about 4 mils off the corners of the shelf there and at the other end, and basically lifted the shelf up. You'll notice that these battens are not part of the original tank, so I added these for extra strength. There's one at either end and one in the middle, and just basically it's just like a batten that I screwed to the back of the stand to make it a bit more stronger. The other thing I did was to cut with a hole saw holes through the back of the stand so that the lines could go directly out through the back, and that was so that I didn't have to have the lines coming around the side of the tank or around the side of the cabinet, and to keep them as short as possible so that the filter didn't have to work so hard. And you can see around the back here where the lines, the water lines come through and up to the suction and discharge. Sorry about the dust. But so yeah, that's a few details on the modifications that I made to the tank to fit the larger canister filter in, and also to make the stand a bit stronger. What else? Paul Kennedy, thanks for your comments. Glad it was able to give you some inspiration and a few ideas. Yeah, so some of the feedback that I gave to Paul was about keeping the setup simple and not having too many fish for the tank, so they don't produce so much waste. So you'll see that I've only got about half a dozen fish in here, and that's about right. They don't produce a lot of waste. The filter doesn't have to do much work to keep up, and I can normally get away with a 1/4 water change every 2 to 4 weeks, and the canister filter I service probably every 4 to 6 months, and when I do, there's really not a lot that comes out of it. So it's a pretty good system. It's very low maintenance. I've shown you guys before, but I've got this auto feeder on the top. Top that up every month or so. This is the food that I use. They're granules which float on the top for a little bit, and then they tend to sink, so it gives all the fish a chance to have a crack at them. So as I say, don't overstock your tank. Choose a filter that's probably higher capacity than what you need for the tank, and that way you know that it's never going to be overworked. Don't put it too close to windows. Don't run your light for too long. It's going to produce too much algae. All these things will just make it low maintenance, less work for you, and more enjoyable for you and the fish. So I think that's all of it. If anyone's got any more questions, please drop them in the comments. Thanks for watching, thanks for following FIFO.fish, and we'll see you next time.